London, December 1995. In a near-empty apartment block scheduled for demolition, a man lay face down on his bed, his hands bound, his feet tied. He would remain there for 9 days, while the city celebrated Christmas, while shoppers flooded Oxford Circus, while his killers calmly used his bank cards over and over again. When police finally broke down the door, he was still alive, but the damage was already done. This is the unsolved murder of Alan Holmes, a crime so cruel. Investigators still struggle to explain how anyone could walk away. Alan Holmes was not a criminal. He was not wealthy. He was not powerful. He was 53 years old, born in Northern Ireland, and described by those who loved him as gentle, soft-spoken, and deeply thoughtful. He loved poetry. He loved language. His sister believed he should have been a writer. Instead, life led him elsewhere. After studying law at Queen's University Belfast, Alan moved to London in 1964, a young man drawn by opportunity. Over the decades, he built a quiet, unremarkable life, one defined by routine and resilience. 5 years before his death, Alan received devastating news. He had multiple sclerosis. The disease progressed steadily. Walking became difficult. Pain became constant. But Alan refused to give up his independence. He continued working as a civilian motor mechanic at Kenishtown Police Station, repairing police vehicles, ironically spending his days keeping others safe, while unknowingly becoming vulnerable himself. By 1995, Alan lived alone in a Camden Town flat on Parkway, one of the last occupied units in a block marked for redevelopment. Most of his neighbors were already gone, which meant when something went wrong, there would be no one to hear him. On Christmas Day, 1995, Alan Holmes did not spend the evening alone. He visited friends in Isleworth, West London. They shared a meal. They talked. They laughed. For a few hours, life felt normal. Just after midnight, his friends drove him home. They watched as he entered his building. They had no idea it would be the last time they'd see him alive. Sometime in the early hours of December 26, at least 2 intruders entered Alan's flat. What happened next was not quick. It was deliberate. Alan was beaten. He was tortured. The attackers demanded PIN numbers for his bank cards. At some point, they restrained him. Hands tied, feet bound, face down on his bed. The bindings were tight, too tight. With his MS, Alan had limited mobility. Once tied, he was completely helpless. His screams went unheard. The building was nearly empty. Then the intruders left. They did not kill him outright. They simply walked away. For the next 9 days, Alan Holmes remained bound. No one checked on him. No one heard him. No one came. Meanwhile, his bank cards were being used again and again across London's busiest districts. Oxford Circus, the South Bank. Someone was very much alive out there, and Alan was slowly dying. Alan Holmes was reliable. Even with multiple sclerosis tightening its grip on his body, he never missed work. So when he failed to appear at Kenishtown Police Station day after day, concern quietly turned into dread. On January 4th, 1996, officers went to his Camden flat. There was no answer, no movement, no sound. Police forced entry. What they found stopped even seasoned officers cold. Alan Holmes lay face down on his bed, his hands and feet still tightly bound, his body emaciated, his lips cracked and dry. Against all odds, he was still alive, barely conscious, severely dehydrated, barely able to speak. An ambulance rushed him to University College London Hospital. For a brief moment, there was hope, but the damage had already been done. On January 5th, 1996, Alan Holmes died. The cause: dehydration and blood clots caused by prolonged restraint that cut off circulation. It was not just murder. It was slow, calculated cruelty. Investigators quickly realized something chilling. This was not random violence. It was targeted. The attackers took around 1,000 pounds in cash, Allen's passport, his driver's license, and 2 antique silver picture frames. But the most important clue? His NatWest bank cards. Between December 26th and 27th, the cards were used a dozen times. Not discreetly, not cautiously. They were used in crowded, public places. Oxford Circus, the South Bank. The killers weren't hiding. They were confident, brazen, almost careless. CCTV footage captured one of the users, a man described as 22 to 25 years old, 6 feet 1 inch, athletic build, number 2 buzz cut, wearing a gray hoodie, tan Timberland boots. To police, it felt close, too close. Someone out there knew exactly what happened in that flat. Inside Allen's flat, forensic teams worked meticulously. The bindings were preserved, the knots analyzed. From the restraints, investigators recovered something crucial, a partial DNA profile, believed to belong to one of the killers. In theory, this should have solved everything. By the mid-1990s, Britain's national DNA database was growing rapidly. Police waited. They searched. They checked again. No match. Not then. Not later. Not ever. The DNA sat quietly in evidence storage. A voice with no name. In the months that followed, 5 people were arrested. Each time, hope surged. Each time it collapsed. Alibis checked out. Evidence fell short. Charges never came. No murder weapon. No confession. No witnesses willing or able to speak. One by one, suspects faded back into the city. The case began to cool, but something about it never made sense. Theory 1, burglary gone wrong. The most accepted explanation. 2 young burglars, inexperienced, panicked. They tied Allen too tightly, never realizing the fatal consequences. But then, why torture him? Why return to use his cards repeatedly? Why leave him alive? Intimidation job. Allen was the last resident in a building scheduled for redevelopment. Some whispered that heavies were sent to scare him out. But intimidation jobs don't usually include bank card theft, public spending sprees, extreme restraint. Then came one of the strangest suggestions. In 1995, the film Say 7 and dominated pop culture. Its imagery of prolonged suffering, its themes of punishment. Some wondered, was this crime inspired? Police never confirmed it, but the comparison haunted the investigation. Just 50 yards away, a convenience store called Cullen's was robbed the same night Allen returned home. The timing was close. Too close. Were the crimes connected? Police suspected yes. But again, no proof. Just another thread leading nowhere. Despite DNA evidence, CCTV images, arrests, a reward of 25,000 pounds. No one has ever been charged. Every Christmas, for 30 years, the Camden New Journal runs the same appeal. Someone knows something, and somewhere, someone has stayed silent. By all logic, the murder of Allen Holmes should have been solved. Police had what most cold cases never get: a clear timeline, CCTV images, suspect descriptions, and most crucially, DNA. The partial DNA profile taken from the bindings was believed to belong to one of the killers. Detectives ran it again, and again, and again. As the national DNA database expanded, hopes quietly reignited. Each new batch of entries promised closure. Each time, the result came back the same. No match. The DNA remained anonymous. A biological fingerprint with no name attached. As years passed, detectives retired. Witnesses moved away, memories blurred, but the evidence stayed frozen in time, waiting. Then there was a detail that disturbed everyone. Alan Holmes survived 9 days. Medically, that should not have been possible. Doctors agreed. A man in his condition, with multiple sclerosis, bound tightly, unable to move, could not survive 9 days without water. Yet he did, which led to one chilling possibility. Someone may have returned. Police believe the attackers, or one of them, may have come back to flat and given Alan water. If true, it changes everything. It suggests hesitation, regret, or something far more disturbing. A killer with a conscience. Others disagreed. Some doctors suggested Alan may have survived by licking condensation from the walls, or that his account, given while barely conscious, was confused. But the question remains. If someone returned, why didn't they untie him? Investigators have asked the same question for nearly 3 decades. What kind of people bind a disabled man, leave him to die slowly, yet possibly return to keep him alive? It is a psychological contradiction. Cruelty paired with restraint. Violence paired with mercy. If this was a burglary, why stay so long? Why torture? If it was intimidation, why steal? Why use the cards publicly? If it was sadism, why stop short of killing him outright? Every theory collapses under scrutiny, and in that collapse lies the true horror. This crime does not fit cleanly into any category, which makes it harder to solve and easier to forget. No one has ever been charged. The men responsible would now be in their 50s or 60s. They have families, jobs, lives. Somewhere in London or beyond, they carry this secret. Every year, the Camden New Journal publishes the same appeal. Every year, Alan's name returns to print. A plaque hangs at Kentish Town Police Station in his honor, a quiet acknowledgement that one of their own was failed. And still, the flat on Parkway stands silent. Alan Holmes loved poetry. He loved words. And yet, his final story was told in silence. No screams were heard. No help arrived. No justice followed. Only a question that still hangs over London. Who bound Alan Holmes and walked away? Until that answer comes, this case remains open.